here on Salam Radio 106.2 FM and Inspire FM in Luton on 105.1. We are, of course, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, online at salamradio.co.uk, and of course our iPhone and Android apps are available for you to download free of charge, so you can take us wherever you go, inshallah. We are, of course, always on air for you 24/7, 365, uniting all communities. Please make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of our content is available on YouTube and all the other platforms for you to listen again to your heart's content if you do miss the live shows. Now, in a few minutes, I'm very excited this week. We're going to have brother Abrar Hussain joining us, who is a very, very talented British Muslim filmmaker, writer, producer, and director. Last year saw the release of his feature-length documentary film One Day in the Haram, and that tells the story of the Haram in Makkah from the perspective of the workers, which is absolutely fascinating. I've yet to see it, but I've seen the trailer. We have put it on our Facebook page as well, I believe, but it is absolutely beautifully shot from what I've seen. We're going to be chatting with him about his film and more. And coming up at the halfway point, 9:30, exam pressures. 'Tis the season to be stressed. With end-of-year exams just around the corner, Jannat Suleman, my daughter, will be joining us to advise on top tips for revision and study success that just might help you in the weeks to come, inshallah. So stay tuned for that at 9:30, and give us a call if you have any specific questions on exam preparation, exam revisions, anything around that kind of field. Give us a call, and inshallah Jannat will have some good sound advice for you for that. Our WhatsApp number for any messages 07745 278 978, or give us a call at 9:30 01733 602 133, or of course if you're watching on Facebook, send us a Facebook Live message. Now, with the blessed month of Ramadan just around the corner, I'm really excited to play this track. This is probably just might be the first UK radio play of the new track from Unity. This is Ramadan for All, and I absolutely love this. Tell me what you think of this, listeners.
The moon is out and it's begun. The month of Ramadan has come. It fills my heart with so much light. We pray for you all day and night. The days of mercy I'll go through. I'll be reaching out to you. Allah forgive me and everyone for all the sins that I have done.
I'll give it all up just for you. I hope and pray we'll see it through. Just fill my heart with love for you and the beloved.
There ain't no better time of year. My heart's so happy all because it's Ramadan. Ramadan. Tell your family and your friends it's the time to make amends. It's Ramadan, Ramadan. Oh, 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 Ramadan. A brand new start for you and I. To turn a new leaf and live our lives all in your obedience. Ask for your forgiveness. This is the month of the Quran, spreading peace to live as one. Marhaban Shahr Siyam, beloved month of Ramadan.
I'll give it all up just for you. I hope and pray we'll see it through. Just fill my heart with love, Allah. I'll give it all up just for you. I hope and pray we'll see it through. Just fill my heart with love for you and the beloved. Oh,
ain't no better time of year. My heart's so happy all because it's Ramadan, Ramadan. Tell your family and your friends it's the time to make amends. It's Ramadan, Ramadan.
صلي وسلم ويبارك عليه آمين وعلى وصحبي وسلم آمين يا الله.
In a better time of year, my heart's so happy all because tell your family and your friends it's the time to make amends. It's Ramadan, Ramadan, Ramadan for all. Ramadan for all.
Mashallah, I hope you enjoyed that. I really like that track. That's a new one from Unity. Just came out yesterday, so I probably reckon that's a UK radio first here on Salam Radio for Ramadan for All from Unity. South African guys, mashallah, doing really well, and we did interview them a while back. I think it's time we brought them back on Friday Night Prime, so inshallah we'll make that happen. Now, Abrar Hussain is a British Muslim filmmaker, writer, producer and director. He was raised in London and studied at Kingston University, and he started his career as a series producer at Islam Channel. He directed and produced the popular returning TV shows Model Mosque and Faith Off, which you might remember, and he presented the final of Model Mosque at the Global Peace and Unity event in 2007 in front of a live audience of 30,000 people. It's a huge event, that one. And he's also produced and directed Faith Off. This was a game show format where contestants from different religious backgrounds would compete for prizes. The Guardian called it Britain's first interfaith game show. More recently, he's directed One Day in the Haram. That tells the story of the Haram in Makkah from the perspective of the workers who represent the human face of the Haram. And the film explores the work they do as well as the spiritual motivation of the employees. Assalamu alaikum, brother Abrar, and welcome to Friday Night Prime.
Wa alaikum salam, brother. It's really a great pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, it's our honour to have you here, brother. It really is. Based on just the teaser of the trailer, which I've seen of this amazingly, beautifully shot film. I mean, it really does tease the taste buds. And I know you've had recently a 6-city tour, haven't you? Which just, I think, came to an end very recently, but was a huge success by all accounts.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I was actually started off just as a 2-city tour. We just did London, premieres in London and Birmingham of the film in cinemas in London and Birmingham. And then because it was, alhamdulillah, thanks to the blessings of Allah, it was really popular. The 2 screenings sold out in a matter of days. So then we added another 6 screenings. So we did actually 8 screenings, 8 cinema screenings in the UK altogether.
Wow!
And alhamdulillah, by the grace of God, the audiences seem to respond really, really well to it, and we actually sold all those cinemas out. So now there's actually more being planned as well. So hopefully more screens coming in the UK now.
Well, that's really good to hear. Just for the benefit of our listeners who are watching on Facebook, right now you should see the trailer running as I talk to Brother Abrar. Obviously you won't hear the audio, but you'll see the beautiful shots that Abrar has worked on tirelessly in this film. So, brother, let me ask you this: how did you, before we get on to the actual film, how did you first begin to get involved in filmmaking? How did it all start for you?
Place on earth.
Well, I guess I was just really into cameras, video cameras when I was young. When I was around, even 10, 11 years old, I had my own camcorder, which I'd forced my parents to buy me.
Right.
And this camcorder was basically just kind of like an extension of my arm. I just had it with me everywhere. I would film everything and anything. And so that's how I started, basically, just at a very young age, just filming family events, functions, family birthday parties and things like this. My dad used to have a lot of religious functions in our house. I used to call a lot of people and get some kind of speaker in my arm to come and do a lecture, and I would film those. And so that's what I started from an early age. And then as I got older, it just seemed natural to pick up bigger cameras and more complex kind of camera systems, and they just came very, very naturally to me. And alhamdulillah, I was very lucky to get a shot at Islam Channel to make that first show.
Oh, alhamdulillah. And obviously I would imagine from an early age, whether you recognised it or someone else saw it in you, but the natural ability to direct and to film and to get great shots, I imagine that was something that was recognised quite early in your age, or did that come later?
Well, I think recognition in the media industry comes pretty hard. It's hard to come by.
Okay.
Even if you are doing really great stuff, it's very difficult to get recognised. There's a lot of people trying to do it. I mean, to be honest, I have to give credit to Islam Channel, because at that time, when I went to Islam Channel to make that first show, Model Mosque, I didn't actually have any experience. I had filmed lots of things, but nothing professional, nothing that had been broadcast on television or anything like this. So that first chance, there's a brother at Islam Channel, Muhammad Ali, the CEO of Islam Channel.
Of course,
he was actually the one who believed in the concept, because I knew I had a very, very good concept with Model Mosque. I knew it was a concept that the UK really needed, because at that time, we're talking about 10 years ago, mosques were really under a lot of pressure and a lot of negative media coverage of mosques. So it was very important that someone believed in it and took that chance. And Muhammad Ali, Islam Channel, he took that chance, and in return, I made him the most popular show that was on Islam Channel, at that time. So it worked out very well for both of us. And that was that. Then when that recognition did come, the amazing thing was that Model Mosque, the media picked up on Model Mosque, and Model Mosque was basically in all the kind of main media outlets here in the UK. It was on Channel 4, it was on BBC News, it was on Newsnight, it was on all these different media platforms, and that was the first signs of real recognition.
Fantastic. That's amazing. And obviously, you kind of rode the crest of that success and carried on with Faith Off for Islam Channel, which was also very successful. So, mashallah, it's really been a great start in terms of your professional career.
Alhamdulillah,
with Islam Channel. So
I was very grateful for that. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So tell us about the beginnings of this amazing film. One Day in the Haram. How was it conceptually born? How did that start?
I mean, what happened, because then I was basically well recognized as a kind of international filmmaker. I would go to many different kind of countries to film projects for charities from the UK. So I had a host of charities that I would work with, and they used to send me out to all these different countries, in Africa and Asia, some far out places. I used to go and make these films. But, I got to thinking that but when I used to go there, for about a week or 10 days to shoot this project and come back. But I was thinking I'd really like to go to a country and experience completely a different culture, how it is to live there and everything like that. So I had the opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia. So I went to Saudi Arabia, and I shot a project out there. And, while I was there, I travelled around Saudi Arabia for a little while. She travelled to Jeddah, to Makkah, to Medina, to Hubar, to Riyadh. I saw these different cities, and I actually thought, I could probably stay here. And there was a very cool guy there who I met, a very good brother called Abdullah Al-Ahmari. He eventually became the executive producer of the film One Day in the Haram. And he really wanted me to stay in Saudi because, he really needed a producer out there. And he wanted me to stay, but, I said to him right at the start, before I committed to staying in Saudi Arabia, I said, look, if I'm going to stay in Saudi Arabia, there's only one purpose really to be in Saudi Arabia, and that is to do something with the Haram. In Makkah. So he immediately was also very excited about that. So that's where the initial, the concept of it, we didn't have a concept such as One Day in the Haram at that stage.
Right.
All we knew is that we wanted to make a film, something special in Makkah. That's all we knew. And that's where it was born. And from there, we kind of made it happen from there, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, and the end result, from what I've seen, that the small footage that I've seen is it fair to say that primarily the concept is seeing it from the eyes of the workers in the Haram? Is that kind of the main concept of this film?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say that's exactly correct. Yeah.
Okay, and how long was it in the making? I mean, beginning to end, how long did this take you and the team to put together?
Altogether, it took around 18 months to put it together. But yeah, 8 months of that was just getting the permissions, because the really hard thing about working in the Haram, or to do anything in the Haram, is to get the necessary permissions from the Saudi government and from the Haram itself to actually be allowed to film something there, something substantial. So that took an awful long time, and banging on an awful lot of doors. And with the Haram, the Haram is a very kind of bureaucratic kind of place in terms of that you need a lot of different authorizations to film there. So you need something like all the different departments have to agree that the project is good, it's worthwhile, and we need to do it. So even if we got one department within the Haram that didn't like what we were doing, then it would get rejected. So in all, we pitched 6 different times, 6 different treatments that I wrote to the Haram, where always someone had some kind of objection. But we eventually came with this idea, which was One Day in the Haram, and from the perspective of the workers, alhamdulillah, everyone seemed to like that idea. And so that was good, to have that kind of general consensus that this was a good idea and something that needed to be done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, what's interesting, it was only when Sheikh Sadais, who was the president of the Haramain, of the two holy mosques, Makkah and Medina, it was only when he got involved personally that everything really started happening for us. I mean, before then, it was always touch and go where we would get these permissions, because, BBC had been there before, and National Geographic had been there trying to get these kind of permissions, and they had failed. So, they didn't get anywhere near the kind of access that we got in this film.
Right.
And the reason for that really ultimately was because Sheikh Sadais, he liked the concept of One Day Home. He put his kind of backing behind it, and once that happened, then everything moved very, very quickly after that.
Alhamdulillah, so that really did work out. So things expedited when he got involved. But
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But before his involvement, were there days when when things were getting rejected, when you thought this was never going to take off?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of times like that, to be honest. I mean, sometimes I turn around to the executive producer, Abdulillah, and I turn around to him and I say, look, Abdulillah, I think we're just kidding ourselves. These guys are never going to give us the permissions, to do this big thing. Especially, if you can imagine a British filmmaker going there and saying, look, I want to produce a film in the Haram, and they were thinking initially, he wants to produce some kind of 10-minute film or 15-minute film. And when I told them, no, I want to produce a film that's going to be around an hour and a half, and I want it to be on the scale that it's going to be shown in cinemas around the world, then this was unheard of. No one could fathom what this was. So it was basically it was a process of explaining to them the benefit of doing something on this scale for the Haram, and also getting them to buy into that it could be something very, very positive for the Haram. So I think that these things took a lot of time. It took a lot of explanation, and it took a lot of perseverance from our side. But let's say I was very comfortable during those 8 months leading up to getting the permissions, because from my point of view and the way I think about the Haram, everything is ordained by Allah. And so, especially something to do with the Haram. In fact, I'd go as far as say, mine personally, like, even if you go for Hajj or Umrah at the Haram, it's like you have to be invited to come to Makkah.
Yes.
So this thing, I didn't have any pressure on me, because I just felt to myself, well, if Allah wants this to happen for the Haram, then it will happen. No one's going to be able to stop it. I mean, if He doesn't want it to happen, then there's nothing we can do to actually make it happen. We can't force it. So I was very, very comfortable during those 8 months. I was just relaxed. I wasn't kind of under pressure or anything. Oh, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen?
Yeah.
I just, we just did our work diligently. We did our research diligently. I spent those 8 months basically doing a very long pre-production on the Haram. I actually went to Makkah around 6 or 7 times during that time. Each time 1 or 2 weeks, looking at all the different locations, planning, where I would shoot, how I would shoot, planning which cameras we would use, the lenses, every small detail. We had time in that period just to plan everything down, to very minute details. So the time was well spent, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. No, it sounds like a major undertaking, and the result, from what I've seen, I mean, looks, mashallah, looks amazing. And, when you set about making this film, brother, what were your key objectives in the look of the film, because it really is stunning, but also the purpose? What was the overall purpose of the film? Was it a personal objective, or was there an objective you had in terms of a message that you wanted to put out there? Yeah, no, I think definitely, with the Haram, I think, because the Haram is something that every single Muslim in the world identifies with. So it was definitely, for me as a filmmaker, it was, obviously very exciting from a creative point of view, very exciting, but something like this hadn't been done before in history, really. So this is actually like a historical film, because no one has made a film like this in the Haram. But really, I mean, the ultimate aim was, if it was something, that if we could do something that was going to be good for Islam, that was going to be good for the Muslims, that was going to spread the message of Islam in a positive way, and also, very importantly, and a very big consideration for me as the director of the film, was that something that would also attract non-Muslims as well as Muslims, to gain a better understanding of Islam. So we kind of designed it in a way where it wasn't just accessible for Muslims. I think one of the hardest things to do when I was actually writing the film was striking the correct balance between what would appeal to a non-Muslim and their level of understanding about Islam, and what would appeal to Muslims, obviously, who have a much greater understanding of Islam. Sure.
So striking this balance to kind of reach both audiences was key and paramount. And in terms of the look of the film, obviously, as I say, we had that 8 months where I really sat down, and planned, the look of the film. I put a lot of effort into the cinematography, a lot of research into the locations and, which locations would look nice and how the film would be shot, which lenses we would use and things like this. Because obviously, if you're going to make something in the Haram, you want it to look very, very beautiful, something that's going to really capture the essence of the Haram. So we tried to do that. on the visual side, and also, I mean, alongside that is you know, what even more difficult than that was trying to capture the feeling that the Haram inspires in people. So this was the most difficult thing, and the thing I spent an awful lot of time kind of, how can I recreate this feeling? Because, you know, the good thing for me was I actually went to Umrah in Makkah before I even considered making the film, so I already had that experience. Someone who went for Umrah, so the first time I went, and you know, I don't know if you've been or not, have you actually been to Umrah? Have you been to Makkah?
Yes, I have, yes.
Yeah, so you know, I mean, anyone who's been there will be able to relate to what I'm saying. It's like the first time when you walk into the Mataf, and you see the Kaaba for the first time. I mean, that is just a moment that is just amazing. It's a moment that, you know, it just transcends everything. And, you know, I was really keen to try and recapture that experience. So I basically delved into my own kind of personal experience of the first time I saw the Kaaba, how I felt, how it made me feel. You know, there's a very, I mean, to see the Kaaba, to touch the Kaaba, I mean, it's really something, you know, it's really something amazing and something very, very powerful.
Yes.
So this is the kind of essence we tried to capture in the film.
Yeah, and no mean feat, you know. I mean, this is something that, as you say, must have been a challenge to try and capture the essence of that in the film.
Yeah.
And I've yet to see it. Just for our listeners, by the way, I did mention we were running the trailer with no audio for our viewers on Facebook. We did have a technical issue, but now that's sorted. Just to let our apologies to our listeners for a few minutes where that wasn't playing, but it is, as we speak, it's playing now. So. Another question. We've got about 5 minutes left, brother. But from the trailer, we can see now. We can see just how beautiful the film looks. But did your perceptions of Makkah personally change in any way from seeing it through the eye of the lens? Did that bring any kind of change in your perception or views of Makkah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so. I mean, not so much seeing it through the eye of the lens, because obviously the way I was seeing it, you know, to me, Makkah always was a very beautiful thing. To me, the Kaaba is just one of the most majestic structures on earth. You know, it's just so powerful and so beautiful. So for me, the actual look of it was exactly how I wanted it to look.
Yeah.
But you know, I think much more harder was just capturing, you know, the spirit of the place, and also a lot of preconceptions I had about Makkah. I'm not sure, you know, how other people would perceive Makkah, but especially non-Muslims might see Makkah as, you know, a very traditional kind of place, and one that's very steeped in history. You know, the weight of the history of Islam is so heavy in Makkah. You know, it's just unbelievable. You can really feel it. You know.
Yeah.
But for me, what was really surprising was just how modern that city was, and especially just how modern the systems within the Haram were. You know, like, for example, the air conditioning system,
absolutely,
and the sound systems. You know, the systems that control the temperatures of the Zamzam water. I mean, these are some of the most advanced systems in the world. You know, they spared literally no expense to ensure these were foolproof, safe-proof, completely fail-proof systems. Right. You know, even the way the power works in the Haram. So all these things were really big eye-openers for me. You know, and I was learning a lot. And, you know, alhamdulillah, I mean, by the grace of Allah, I mean, through this process of doing all this research, you know, I've actually become one of the kind of experts on the Haram, on how it's run, and you know, the behind the scenes of the Haram. So that I'm really grateful for that, because it was just a real, you know, a privilege to be able to research this. And, you know, I just have to be very thankful for God that He actually gave me this opportunity, not just to make the film, because obviously that's important, but even if I hadn't made the film, just to have access to these kind of facilities, to see how this place is run, it just really was an amazing honour, to be honest.
No, absolutely. It's a huge privilege, and one that people would, you know, love to be in your shoes, brother, I'm sure, because it's not every day that you get that level of access and that viewpoint that that people would love to access. And, of course, people can share in some of that in the film. So, you know, where can people see this film? I mean, you've done the 8 cinemas recently. You said there's more to come. But where can people see this?
Well, what will happen now, because, you know, for me, I think one very important element is that we always designed the film, you know, the shots within the film were always designed to be seen on a big screen, on a huge screen, in an immersive and kind of collective environment, you know, as in people sitting together and watching this to get the feeling. This was very important to me. So now, obviously, not just in the UK, I mean, there's going to be more screenings in the UK, but also around the world. Like, we just signed a deal with a company in Australia to take the film on an 8-city tour in Australia. So we're doing all the big cities there: Sydney, Adelaide, you know, Perth, Gold Coast. We're also currently we've signed a deal for Canada as well. We've also currently in negotiations with other countries such as Malaysia, Hong Kong, I think France, a few other countries, South Africa.
Amazing.
So there's all these negotiations going on. Now, these are all for cinema tours, for cinema exhibition. Now, what our plan is to do as many of the cinema tours as we can to get the film out the way. It was meant to be seen on big screens.
Yeah.
And once that is all over, once that's all done, we've already actually made a deal with Amazon Prime. Which is holding back the release date a little bit, just until the cinema tours are done. And then, inshallah, the film will be out on Amazon Prime. It'll be available to stream in 200 countries.
Inshallah.
So, alhamdulillah, everybody.
Alhamdulillah. Brother, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We are just coming up to a break. We are out of time, unfortunately. Cool. But I want to thank you so much. It's been fascinating talking to you. Congratulations on an amazing project. And, inshallah, we'll hopefully Peter will get a viewing of this soon. But Jazakallah khair, and hopefully stay in touch, inshallah.
Jazakallah Haram. Thank you very much for having me on the station. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Have you visited Abrar Food Store yet? Now open at Lincoln Road Triangle, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. All your favourite brands under one roof. We take payment by card, have free customer parking and offer a free local delivery service. Also available, PayZone for bill payments and money transfer services to Pakistan. Abrar Food Store and Halal Meat. Now open at Lincoln Road Triangle. Call us on 01733 68 73 74. High in quality, low in prices. Third world and developing countries are home to some of the most vulnerable children on the planet. Malnutrition, severe lack of medical aid and access to clean water are just some of the horrific challenges faced by orphans across Africa and Asia. Children of Adam, a Peterborough charity, need your help to bring aid to these orphans for just £25 a month. To sponsor an orphan or assist with other projects, please call 0300 321 0032 or visit www.childrenofadam.net.
Need a great place to chill out? Look no further than The Lounge for quality food and drinks at a great price. Try our varied menu: pasta, seafood, burgers, grills, salad, soup, rice and sides. Also hot and cold drinks, milkshakes and mocktails. Leave room for our exquisite desserts. The Lounge, 417 Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call 01733 709 306 to order for delivery. The Lounge, friendly service with a great atmosphere.
Gems and jewels, wise sayings, interesting events, and moral lessons from Islamic history. He deserved a large endowment.
During the days of Hisham ibn Abdul Malik, a group of Arabs came to his court but were afraid to speak to him. Among them was a young man named Dirwas ibn Habib, who was only 16 years of age at the time. Hisham spotted him among the group and said to his guard, "Now, anyone who wishes to enter and meet me may do so, even young children." Dirwas jumped forward and said, "O leader of the believers, we have been afflicted with 3 hard years. In the first, our fat melted away. The second year ate away our flesh, and the third affected our bones. In your hands you have surplus money. If that surplus is for Allah, then divide it among his slaves. And if it belongs to them, then why do you prevent that wealth from them? And if it is yours, then give it in charity to them. For indeed, Allah rewards those who give charity." Hisham said, "In each of the 3 scenarios, the young man left no excuse for me. He ordered for the group to be given 100,000 dinars, and for that young man to be given 100,000 dirhams."
Broadcasting
Broadcasting 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is Salam Radio.
Assalamu alaikum, listeners. Welcome back to Friday Night Prime with me, Abrar Hussain, here for you every Friday at 9 p.m. Although, having said that, I won't be here during Ramadan. We'll have a change of timetable, some more relevant programming for you during the blessed month, inshallah. So do look forward to that, and do stay tuned to Salam Radio throughout Ramadan, inshallah, for some excellent programming and live shows that we'll have for you throughout the whole month. So before I bring on Jannat Suleman to talk about exam pressures, how to deal with them, revision techniques and tips for success, etc. I just wanted to play a track from a good friend of mine, Munir Zamir, who's been on the show 3 times now, but he hasn't been on for a while. But I just think it's timely to play a lovely piece of his called Justice Burns. Just have a listen to this if you haven't heard it before, and this lyrics should just really drive home a very important message for us all, inshallah.
I walked amongst the leaves, stared incessantly into the trees, let my soul dry out to the swirl of the mystic breeze. I did all this by the power of the One, the Supreme Being. Between the age of darkness and light, I hold a lighter, a lamp, a candle, a torch. Inside the heart of pain, I am the lock, the chain, the doormat, the porch. Within prayer I found the catharsis I craved. Within His mercy I found the will from which I understood what it meant for me to be asked to be saved. I didn't find it in structure and form. I didn't find it in routine and norm. I found it inside a broken heart, inside a staircase of hopes with steps built from fears. I put my trust in clergy. I gave to causes that would eventually burn me. The candle lit at both ends is the one that ultimately pretends that gnosis requires obedience to everything except love. I stood outside the places of worship. I was better off by observing such congregations of silent backbiting and cultural stigmas. I saw them turn all sacred things into tools of power and suicide vests of literalism. I watched as the people of Medina broke fast while others broke bombs, and the world reports for a second and then retorts back to its organized hymn of selective news. When Muslims die, no one asks why. No one funds new initiatives. When Muslims die, when brothers die, with law enforcement bullets, no one takes the law to task. No one removes the white blanket from under the gold badge-shaped mask. They will elect a leader proved to be deceitful, but won't vote for a man who marched and stood with those less equal. They could sell you a new home within your old home and you will fall for it. They could make up the news with old news and you will swear oaths by it. The whole world is in ruins, yet there are no vigils. No strangers light candles and hold hands in this world, I know. They want future generations to hold the flag of unity while super states fall apart. Brexit by Brexit, we have become so oblivious to us that they don't even care if we can see through this. They believe we are passive recipients of narratives and images. Maybe we are, but one truth alone will always be enough to expose 1,000 lies. From the leaves and the trees, the preachers and the breeze, I guess I was on my 2 feet all this time, just didn't know that I was at the same time also on my knees.
Mashallah, that is Justice Burns, one of my all-time favourite pieces from Munir Zamir, mashallah. A really, really powerful piece. Let me know your thoughts. 07745278978, either on that track or, of course, on our first guest, who was Brother Abrar Hussain, director of the amazing looking and sounding One Day in the Haram, which, inshallah, will have a screening in Peterborough. Inshallah, we don't know when, but inshallah that will happen and we'll all get a chance to see it on the big screen as it was designed to have been seen. Now, my daughter, Jannat Suleman, is with us right now. Assalamu alaikum, Jannat.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, yeah, I'm good. Quite tired. It's been a long day, but long weekend ahead.
I didn't want you just to start moaning about,
You asked me how I was, so I told you.
No, it's all good. Listen, thanks for coming on. I thought it was timely to bring you on because exam season is around the corner.
Yep, you don't need to tell me.
It is.
I know.
It's upon us.
It's
upon you.
It is. Not you, just me.
It's not. Well, if it's on you, it's on me, right? Because
yeah,
you know what I mean,
suppose.
Sympathy pains.
Haven't been getting any of those.
No, you wouldn't. I would.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so a lot of our youth, of course, at the moment are preparing for exams which are around the corner, both GCSEs and A-levels. Now, can you remind me? Because obviously the youth are going to know this, but us and the parents, GCSEs start when?
So the IGCSEs start on May the 8th, and I'm 99% sure that the GCSEs in the UK begin the Monday after that, and A-levels begin on the 4th of June, and all public exams end on the 22nd of June.
Okay, wow, so they all end on the same day?
Yeah, so public exams end that day.
Wow. So those taking GCSEs and A-levels, it's a tough time ahead, right? And
it is.
I think it's a fair comment to say, and you can tell me this better than anyone else, Jannat, but it's a fair comment to say that students nowadays are under more pressure than they've ever been.
That is a very accurate statement.
But why is that, do you think?
I think that's a mixture between the constant changing of specifications for exams and a mixture of the grading for that as well. Because now, I mean, especially you and the previous generation, and me as well, because I did my GCSEs when the letter gradings were still in place. So
I'm still getting used to these numbers.
Yeah.
So 9 is an A star, right?
Well, A star.
A star.
According to some, is supposed to be a grade that only 2% of the population will ever achieve, supposedly.
So an 8 is an A star then?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's the equivalent. Right. It's the most accurate equivalent. So we don't do A stars to Gs anymore. We do 9s to 1s.
9s to 1s. Okay.
Yeah.
I know employers. There was an article recently in the Independent.
I saw that.
They're struggling to come to terms with this. Anyway, so you were saying changes in examinations, etc.
Changes in specifications. So the way that this has hit me, for example, is that especially a good 5 years ago, exams were modular. So you would take exams at the end of every term, and that would relieve the stress for a student because you'd have a set number of topics per term. Yeah. And at the end of that term, you could forget about them.
Right.
But now, I think since 2 years ago, all exams have been made linear. So that means you can only take the exams at the end of a course. So for GCSEs, they can only be taken at the end of a 2-year course.
Oh, I see.
So what that does is that then puts a student in a position where they have to, for use of a better word, the word cram all that knowledge into a certain amount of time to revise. So it's not usually consistent, and a student tends to become a lot more stressed in that sort of a situation.
I'm assuming you're not an advocate of cramming.
No.
No.
I personally don't think it works. Having tried it for not my real exams, for my mock exams, because I'd rather experiment then, which is also something I'd like to say. Experiment with methods of revision for your mocks, but not for your exams.
But cramming does work for some people, doesn't it?
For some people it does, but I don't think that cramming that works is true cramming. I think it's still periodic.
Yeah.
So I think when we think of cramming, we think, okay, sitting down with the night before the exam and reading all the information. That's what we think of when we see cramming.
Yeah, literally last minute. Which is obviously we cannot recommend. It just doesn't make any sense.
It's just, it doesn't make any sense, and you'll just crash, theoretically anyway.
Yeah.
But cramming it in sessions, now that's theoretically quite a good idea.
Oh, I see.
For some people,
yeah.
Because you put yourself under pressure, for example, to read that much in an hour or to do that much by a certain deadline. Because some people work better under pressure. I know I work better under pressure.
Yeah.
Some people tend to be a bit more relaxed.
So let's just talk about pressure for a minute.
Yeah,
because,
sure.
As I said, students have never been under more pressure than they are now. Be it from just the how difficult exams have become and are, or pressure from parents, or pressure from the school or the college. There's pressure all round. How would you say is well? You can only speak from yourself, I imagine. But I'm sure from your peers at sixth form, there are techniques that people adopt to cope with pressures.
Yeah.
Talk about some of them that work for you and others.
For me and for others, one that I would say is definitely common is organisation.
Right.
So not many people do this lower down. So I'm talking about GCSEs primarily because that's their first experience of public examinations.
Right.
But I think you tend to learn from your GCSEs when you start your A-levels anyway. That's how I felt about it. When I say organisation, I mean planning what you'll do. Because in a school day, you're within the confines of the school day and you're within the confines of what your teacher set you. But when you go home, all that restraint is gone and you're under your own rules.
Right.
So although you don't have those lessons anymore. And I mean, teachers are setting new guidelines now, and schools are setting new guidelines about how much time per day you should be spending revising. I mean, I think it was in the Easter holidays, the BBC and other news outlets, they posted the same information that it was recommended you study 7 hours a day.
But is that feasible?
It wasn't feasible for me.
No, I know.
So
but I know they're saying in the holidays.
Yeah.
But 7 hours does seem like a lot.
It is a lot. And the way they were saying it was continuous. And even if you were to plan it in the way I'm suggesting is a good idea, as in you separate your topics into hours or half an hour chunks and you mix it up.
Yeah.
Even then, to study continuously for 7 hours or to do 7 hours worth of content with breaks isn't going to be efficient. I'd say, if anything, 5 hours should be your maximum.
Right.
5 hours is recommended because that's about as much concentrated work that you would do in a school day.
Right.
Because 7 hours, I think, is a school day, isn't it? 7 hours?
Probably.
Yeah, and that's including lunch and breaks between lessons and time that you spend talking. So you wouldn't even do 7 hours of continuous work within a normal school day. So I don't think it's practical for that to happen during the holidays.
Right. No, I understand. So my next question really is about those, and because there are different levels of students, right? You've got the academically gifted, and then you've got those that just naturally struggle with academia, but yet they still have aspirations to go down a certain career path, so
definitely.
they need grades. So they have, extracurricular, out of school hours tuition, and all sorts of extra support. What advice, if any, have you got for those types of students who are not academically gifted, and yet they've got the same pressures as others?
Yep, of course.
More so because they've got in theory they've got more work to do.
Yes.
Because they just don't have that innate ability to grasp concepts. So what advice would you give to those types of individuals?
Grasping concepts, I suppose that's an issue for any student, but you're right, more so for people who struggle naturally with terms of academia. But it's really taking the time, because people don't place enough importance on taking the time to find what works for you as a revision method.
Okay.
I've tried countless ones over the years, and only recently I found one that really works for me.
Right.
And that's, after nearly 4 years of public examinations. It's sort of figuring out what sort of learner you are as well, because I think, and this is just off the back of something I read quite a while ago and it's just come to mind now, is that we're either visual learners, we're either auditory learners or kinesthetic learners.
Right. What's kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic, if I'm not mistaken, is more hands-on learning.
Okay.
And visual being more like photographic memory or really bright flashcards that are colour-coded.
Right.
And then auditory being teaching someone else by saying it out loud or watching a video or something like that.
Okay.
And I think it was a study that was conducted that usually the students that struggle the most GCSE and in the transition from Key Stage 3 to GCSE, they're usually kinesthetic learners. They just need more interaction with what they're learning to grasp the topic and to understand it. That's just the way that they embed their learning.
Right.
So I think it's also the fault of the sort of time we're in as well, where the amount of pressure the students are under, it feels like the only way to fully cope with that is to do things the traditional way, put pen to paper and write notes down, because what teachers like, and this is no fault of their own, but is to see the hard evidence, of notes and such like that. Even though we always say to each other, in school, quality over quantity, it doesn't always work like that. Some people like
from the eyes of the perspective of a teacher.
Obviously, this is a generalisation, because there are some lovely teachers who understand all the needs of students.
Okay.
But as the institution as a general, as a group of teachers as general, is what I mean. But yeah, so I think with students like that, it's all right to sort of change the flow of revision. You don't have to be producing stacks and stacks of flashcards. You don't have to be watching millions of videos. If you feel like you need to do something with someone, if you feel like you want to do a more visual piecing together method, which I know some people personally who would look down on that, thinking it's not a very intelligent way of doing things. Yeah. But obviously that's wrong. If that's how someone's going to learn, then let them do it. But I think there needs to be more encouragement of alternative revision methods for kids, and
encouragement coming from the schools
and perhaps the parents as well.
Okay.
Because we're always talking about the generation gap and stuff like that, and I think the previous generation as well, the whole quantity thing, having folders and folders full of notes was a really typical image of a hardworking school kid.
Yeah.
And I think that image still remains in some people's minds. And perhaps, you know, I'd go so far as to say, especially in certain communities as part of culture, you know, the more you do, the more you have to show that's how much work you have.
Yeah, that's a rather old school approach, isn't it? Sadly, which does tend to stem from the parental side. Naturally. Yeah. Listeners, if you do have any specific questions for Jannat about, you know, something, you know, you might be a student listening in, you might have questions about best ways to revise or best ways to grasp concepts. You know, Jannat is experienced in this and inshallah can give you some sound advice. The number is 01733 602 133. Do give us a call, we can get you in on air, or if you'd rather not call, you can send us a message 07745 278978, or if you're watching on Facebook Live, just send us a message. I'm keeping an eye on that. By the way, walaikum assalam to delayed walaikum assalam to Kimberly, who's bless her, always listening. Jazakallah khair for your support. Jannat, of course, we can't omit from our discussion the fact that Ramadan is coinciding with exam season.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a major issue, right?
It is.
It's I mean, talking about your personal circumstances, it's you've got an exam which will probably be on Eid day.
Yeah, I've got an exam either side of the supposed date for Eid. So it's definite that I'll have an exam.
It's definite you'll have an exam on that day. Yeah. So, you know, aside from putting Eid aside, but the actual, you know, fasting during exam season.
Yeah.
You know, what are your thoughts on this? And do you think schools should be making some sort of leeway available to Muslim students? Do you think there is anything they can do? First of all, should they?
Yeah.
And could they?
Should they? I think certain schools already do. I know, for example, at certain schools in the area, they provide these opportunities for students to leave lessons when they need to.
Right.
And obviously with certain levels of permission from parents and such, otherwise, you know, that privilege can get abused.
Yeah.
But there's that. But then you're right, could they? It's this whole idea of how much of the school day and its structure are they willing to compromise on for the sake that, you know, quite a large proportion of the school could be fasting. And for myself, I did GCSEs while during Ramadan. That was pretty much for the entirety of it.
It was.
And thankfully, it's only the last half this time that I'll be doing with exams. But it's tricky. It's tricky during public exams, but it's also a good thing because when you're doing public exams, you're on study leave as well, so you're not totally within the school day.
Right. You're
only in for exams.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole, you know, the inevitable exhaustion which comes with it, and sometimes a lack of concentration. And for me, it's that latter thing, that lack of concentration, which worries me. You're worried that, you know, in a 3-hour-long exam, will you be able to write consistently to the best of your ability?
Yeah.
And it's in those situations that, unfortunately, there isn't anything anyone can do.
Because once you're in the exam, you're in the exam. Right?
Yeah, there's no breaks. You can't have any.
No, you can't.
That breaks all regulations.
Yeah, hence the question, what can be done? Which is, to me, it seems to be very little.
Very little, if anything. And, I mean, there has been some acknowledgement from the JCQ, which is the Joint Council for Qualifications, which holds all exam boards accountable for all changes in regulations.
Right.
And there was the issue of this raised last year. I think it was the most prominent it had ever been, especially in, like, the educational community, where a certain teacher, I think it was in West London, wrote a really strong open letter. I think it might have been Bromley, I might be mistaken.
Okay.
But wrote a really strong open letter about how he felt that the students at his school would be majorly compromised in terms of their exam results due to the fact there was going to be one of the hottest summers, and you know, some kids had about 30 GCSE exams in total.
Wow.
And he didn't feel like it was fair. So off the back of that, nothing happened. Because
out of interest, do you remember if the teacher, and it is quite important to know this, was the teacher of a Muslim, were they Muslim, or was it just like
I don't remember that.
I don't know.
No,
it'd be interesting to know.
It would be, actually,
what their perspective was and why, you know.
That's true.
But no, that is interesting. I mean, I saw something yesterday that was shared with me. It was a set of slides that was it was put together by, I don't know who, forgive me, if I knew I'd credit them, but it was slides by somebody in Luton that was put together for schools in Luton to see, both students and staff, on kind of the fundamentals of what Ramadan is for the staff.
Oh, okay. Right.
And also what students could do to perform at their best during Ramadan in terms of what they should do in terms of a normal day, what they should eat, drink lots of water, etc. These were really useful bits of advice that were given to students. I'll share it with you actually. They were telling what sort of foods you should eat that would give you the best sort of sustained energy throughout the day. And a lot of it is common sense, but not all students, think that way.
People overlook simple things.
Overlook the simple things, which could have a very positive impact if they were to adopt them. So there is help and advice out there. And in fact, we might put it on the Salam Radio Facebook page actually as a link, just to help those that are listening that might tune in. But so you have the pressures, and then you've got the pressures of Ramadan as well. And as we know, there's not much that can be done in that situation, unfortunately. But just going back now to preparing for exams, you, alhamdulillah, have done well in your exams. And what if you had a secret to your success, other than kind of natural academic abilities, but is there a formula? Going back to your GCSEs here, right? Is there a formula that you've had since GCSEs? There may not be. Or a trend or a pattern which you've adopted which seems to be working for you? Because if it works for you, I would imagine it could work for others.
Okay. I'm thinking back to my GCSEs because that'll probably be more relevant at the moment. During the school year, and this might be a bit late advice for some, but never throw anything away that you're given in class. Even if it seems pointless and irrelevant. I mean, I've still got every single sheet that I was given because weirdly it still comes in handy. I never threw anything away, even if it was a little sentence on a piece of paper. Sometimes that little sentence can really be the key to you remembering something. I know that, I have a lot of friends, and sometimes I do this too. You just misplace things. And one thing I would do is always just keep things in a little box or keep things in a folder. So there's that. And when it came to revising, for me, the trend really was to not think that once you've read something, it's done. There was this thing that you used to do in nursery or in early years of primary school when you do spellings, you do look, cover, write and check. And it's sort of that, but on a much bigger academic scale. So sort of to read it, and obviously this works for certain types of learners, but for me personally, to read it, and then for GCSEs I would write it again in my own words, and then read over it again in a week, and then again answer a question on it or something. Now with A level, that extends on a much bigger picture to read an entire topic without looking, write an essay, and then get it marked because it's on a higher level. And also, some people don't like writing for long periods of time. So there's this theory I came across the other day. It's called the curve of forgetting. So the way that works is just as purely reading based in the sense that when you first read a piece of information, you're at 100% of knowledge in that. But then as a day passes, you're on 90% and then 80%. But then if you were to read it at the end of the week again, when you're on 50%, you read it and then you're back on 100% again.
Oh, I see.
So if you were to read something regularly, that's just as good as you writing an essay every week on it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so that works obviously for people who remember things religiously in that sense, when like you repeat a phone number to yourself again and again and you keep it in your memory. So that works. Obviously for smaller chunks of information, but that's the way it works. So that's a theory that's come to the forefront recently that I came across.
Interesting. And are there any? Have you come across other kind of unorthodox ways of studying, which you personally have thought that's just got to be a joke? that's not going to work. Whereas obviously everyone's different, and there are different ways. But have you come across any kind of weird and wonderful ones?
A long time ago, somebody said that it was. I don't know where I read it. I don't think it was a very credible news source. But apparently, if you were to eat a certain food while you were revising, and then to eat that before you went into the exam room, you remember what you revised at the time you ate that.
Because of the association of the food. Really?
There was that went around during my GCSEs. I remember that as well. But talking about unorthodox ones that sort of work actually, I've forgotten the name of it. I think it begins with P, but it's a technique that's come out recently. Is the idea that every 7 minutes during revising, have a 2-minute break.
Wow.
Which is really regular, but
every 7 minutes.
Every 7 minutes, I think it's every 7. I could be mistaken, but I know it's really small intervals. Have a 2-minute break. And apparently it boosts your enthusiasm and it boosts your motivation to complete as many intervals as possible. In fact, there's an app just for it. I can't remember what it is. It's quite popular at the moment amongst my peers and stuff. But it's the idea that the more you do, the smaller the amount of time you give yourself to do a certain amount of tasks or reading in, you'll become more motivated to complete it. So,
wow.
And I know that's something I like doing. You know, you have a list of tasks and you like crossing them off, and it's that sort of idea behind it.
So the final question, because we are swiftly running out of time, is I mean, the way you organise your revision and your study, is it more physical based? Because I know you do the cards.
Yeah, I do.
Or do you have a balance between that and electronic? I mean, do you find that working electronically is easier than working on paper based?
For me, I've never really made the transition from hard copy notes to digital. I'm one of the few people I know in that sense, because I know people who will make tons of notes during a lesson and then type them all up.
Really?
And I can't do that yet. So some people like to have it in a nice clean format and some don't. It depends what you find easy to read.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope that our listeners found this a little bit insightful and some little tips and bits there that could really help, in terms of study and the exam pressures that everyone have coming up, because it is difficult and students are under a lot of pressure. But inshallah, everyone will do well, and all parents and teachers can ask is for them to do their best.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's all. But we do wish all our student listeners all the very best for the exam season, especially during Ramadan, which will make it just that little bit more difficult. As always, Jazakallah khair for listening, everyone. I'll be back with you same time next week, inshallah, at 9 p.m. with another interesting, engaging show here on Friday Night Prime, inshallah. Please do stay tuned to Salam Radio throughout the weekend. Of course, Salam Sports will be with you at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Jazakallah khair and Assalamu alaikum. You're listening to Salam Radio, and it's now time for Isha.